If you're talking to me, you're on mute still.
We are ready, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone to the December 15th City Commission meeting. Before we get started, I'd ask our Communications and Creative Resource Director, Porter O'Neill, to give us a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. As the Mayor said, my name is Porter O'Neill, and I'll be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting tonight. With me here is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk, and she'll work alongside Mayor Finkeldei to help facilitate the meeting. This meeting is being broadcast and recorded on the city's YouTube channel. During the meeting, when you are not participating, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. Muting your microphone during the meeting will make it easier for everyone to hear. You just have to remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In some cases, I may mute or unmute people as needed to minimize distractions during the meeting. Please remember to state your name every time you speak for the benefit of those listening remotely. You can turn your video camera on or off by clicking the video icon in the menu. For the purposes of this public meeting, when you are participating in the meeting, please keep your video on. When you are not participating in the meeting, it is okay to turn your video off. You will still be able to listen to the meeting when your video is off. You will just have to remember to turn your video back on when you are participating. Turning your video off when you are not participating will help make sure that the active meeting participants can be seen on the screen. In some cases, I may turn someone's video off if they are not actively participating to minimize distraction during the meeting. You can always turn your video back on during the meeting. If you have any trouble, you can send me a chat. If you're participating by phone, you can click *6 to unmute your phone, and you can click *9 if you want to raise your hand to provide public comment when called. For those using Zoom, somewhere on your screen, you will see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. And now I'll turn the meeting back over to Mayor Finkeldei.
Thank you, Porter, and I will do roll call now. Vice Mayor Shipley?
Here.
Commissioner Ananda?
Present.
Commissioner Boley?
Here.
Commissioner Lawson?
Here.
We are all here, and Mayor Finkeldei, I'm here. We're all here and accounted for. And before we go further, I'll ask Sherry Riedemann, our city clerk, to talk about the process for the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. I'm going to provide a few procedural reminders for the virtual meeting. Commissioners, you must state your name and title each time you speak. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, the mayor will call on commissioners individually to provide their vote. Mayor, you will then need to announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. Various members of city staff are present via Zoom, and they must also state their name and title each time they speak. When public comment is sought on an item, individuals participating via Zoom should use the raise your hand feature. Windows and Mac users can access this feature through the participants button at the bottom of their screen. Android and iPhone users can access this feature through the More button located at the bottom right corner of their screen. For those calling in by phone, you may dial *9. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear on the meeting host screen. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The mayor will then call for in-person public comment for those without access to technology options. Staff present will direct you to the podium to speak, following social distancing and safety protocols. The regular 3-minute time limit will apply.
Mayor Finkeldei, thank you, Sherry. The first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. The City Commission reserves the right to amend, supplement, or reorder the agenda during the meeting. Do any members of the commission like to amend the agenda or make a motion?
Commissioner Larson, I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Mayor
I'll second.
Finkeldine? Okay,
This is Chair Nanda.
Mayor Finkeldine, there was a motion by Commissioner Lawson, a second by Commissioner Nanda to approve the agenda. Commissioner Lawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nanda,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowley.
Aye.
Mayor Finkeldine, aye, passes 5-0. Next on our agenda is proclamations, and we're excited to proclaim the month of December 2020 as Lawrence Transit Month. Now, I don't know if Adam or someone from staff is here to speak about that.
Good evening, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to speak a few words about this proclamation. So I'm Adam Weigel, Transit and Parking Manager for the City of Lawrence, and happy to share just a few thoughts as we reflect on 20 years worth of transit service here in Lawrence. So Lawrence Transit began service on December 16th of 2000, and we started with 8 fixed routes along with complimentary paratransit service. And since 2002, Lawrence Transit has received 9 FTA Ridership Awards, an NAACP Business Impact Award, a Kansas Public Transit Association System of the Year Award, a KU Sustainability Award, an APTA Marketing Award, and an Esri Graphic Award. Since the year 2000, we've added 2 routes, and we've increased frequency on several routes to every 30 minutes. Coordination with KU has led to a more cohesive and streamlined transit system for everybody here in Lawrence. And that coordination first began as with KU Park and Ride service in 2006, but over the years has also included joint funding of routes, a joint maintenance facility. We use the same contractor to provide our services, and we have coordinated planning studies. For the last 10 years, our coordinated system has provided just over or just under around 3 million fixed route rides per year and around 80,000 annual paratransit trips. And although this year won't bring quite the same ridership numbers, the bus has provided a steady and stable support for our community. We've not had any cuts to bus service during the pandemic, which has still allowed people to make essential trips to work, to school, to the doctor, grocery store, and any other critical needs that people had. I would say our drivers and passengers have been flexible and accommodating through this year, as we've had to act quickly to make new policies, procedures, and physical changes in our buses to make them as safe as possible during this pandemic. We're very excited looking towards the future hopefully where the bus is convenient and comfortable and affordable for everyone in our community. And in particular, the next 2 years will be transformative for Lawrence Transit as we move forward on development of a multimodal transfer facility and redesigning routes to better serve our community. 5 electric buses will be deployed in 2022, which will be the first step in electrifying our fleet and moving towards a quieter and more sustainable bus system. And we had 7 bus stops improved this fall with like shelters and benches, but that's just the beginning as we're looking next year, next spring, to improve 21 additional sites. So I'll just say I'm relatively new in this role, and I just couldn't be more proud to be part of this system. Really look forward this upcoming year and the next 2 years having a lot of community discussions about the project I talked about, but also just how we continue to innovate and make transit an easy choice for people to use in Lawrence. Thank you.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you very much, Adam. Adam's heard me say this a few times. For those who don't know, Adam joined us the week the pandemic hit. So although I've talked to Adam many times, I've never met him in person, and I'm not sure when I'll get to, but we certainly appreciate your work and all that you've done with the transit system. So I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas Lawrence Transit System, the T, is celebrating 20 years in Lawrence community in December 2020. The service began in December 2000 when Lawrence residents recognized a need for transit in their community. And whereas transit is vital to the community and economic development, is especially important during these difficult times since it provides transportation to essential jobs, shopping, and appointments. And whereas transit provides transportation options for people who either do not own a car, cannot drive, or choose to ride a bus instead of driving. And whereas coordinated bus service with KU allows anyone to ride any bus in Lawrence, increasing transportation options for all bus riders. And whereas transit reduces traffic on the road, helps the environment, and reduces the need for parking. And whereas the T-Lift provides vital transportation for people who are unable to ride the fixed route buses due to disabilities. And whereas the Lawrence community supports transit and understands the positive impact transit has in our community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Brad Finkeldye, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, do hereby proclaim the month of December 2020 as Lawrence Transit Month. And I give full support towards enabling community members to ride the bus and enjoy the freedom, safety, and stress-free commute that transit provides. Thank you very much. Give a little clap there. Not the same when it's not in person, but thank you, Adam, and thank you to the transit system. We'll now move to the consent agenda, which is quite a few items on the consent agenda tonight. But all matters listed below on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Members of the public wishing to speak to an item that has been pulled off the consent agenda will be limited to 3 minutes for comments. To begin with, do any commissioners have items to pull from the consent agenda?
Commissioner Larson, I've got two items. One is C6D, and that's for voting purposes only. And the other item is C8G. There were some questions that was presented by a community member that I'd like to see addressed.
And that's the one, Mayor Finkeldye, 812 Ohio, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And any other commissioner have an item to pull from the agenda? This is Mayor Finkeldye. I would like to pull C8B related to the ESG funding for the homeless. Any other commissioner items? Seeing none, if any member of the public would like to pull an item off the agenda pull off the agenda, you can raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and Sherry will call on you. If there's any item you'd like to pull off the agenda besides the 3 already pulled off.
This is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. There was a member of the public that had registered stating they wanted C8B, but that has already been pulled. Another individual listed C8M to be pulled. And then we do have two individuals, Chris Flowers, if you would state the item you would like to have pulled.
I'd like to pull C7D, I think, the one about the legislative priority statement.
I just, sorry, Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. I just want to make sure I have the right item because there was a last minute update that reordered it. So that would be item C8D is the legislative priority statement.
Okay, then it'd be that one.
Okay, and then
Sorry.
I have a Kurt at home that has their hand raised. That's you.
No,
Do you see the raised hand?
yeah.
Okay. Is there a Kurt that wants to have an item pulled that's on Zoom?
There he is.
Mayor Finkeldye, oh, there you are.
Yeah, no, I didn't really want to pull one. Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Mayor, this is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. There is no other indication that anyone would like to pull any other items.
Thank you, Mayor Finkeldye. So it appears we have, and check me here, C6D for voting purposes, C8B C8D, C8G, and C8M. Sherry, is that what you have?
That is what I have.
Okay. Mayor Finkel, I thank you. Would someone be willing to make a motion on the remaining items?
This is Commissioner Larson. I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of C6D, C8G, C8B, C8M, and C8D.
Commissioner Ananda, I second.
Mayor Finkel, we have a motion by Commissioner Lawson and a second by Commissioner Ananda. Commissioner Lawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ananda,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bully,
Aye.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Passes 5-0. Let's go ahead and start with C6D. Commissioner Lawson.
Yes, I pulled this just for voting purposes, since I voted against it under the first reading.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you. Any commissioner want any comment on that? Jerry, do I need to open that to public comment?
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk, yes.
Okay. Mayor Finkel, aye. If any member of the public would like to speak on this item before we vote on it, please use your raise the hand button on Zoom, or if you're present, let Sherry know in the chambers.
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk, there's no public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkel, I thank you. Would there be a motion then?
I move to approve or adopt on second and final reading ordinance number 9821.
Vice Mayor Shipley, second.
Mayor Finkel, aye. There's a motion by Commissioner Ananda, a second by Vice Mayor Shipley. Commissioner Ananda,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley,
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson,
No.
Commissioner Bully,
Aye.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Passes 4-1. Mayor Finkel, thank you for that. Let's go to, I think I want to take these slightly out of order because I think C8B might take a little longer than the others. Let's do C8D first, which is the legislative priority statement. And I believe Mr. Flowers pulled that, so you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, this is Chris Flowers, and I was just wondering, I think we should add ranked choice to our legislative priorities. And the reason is if we're going to be looking at how we choose our government and possibly redoing how we elect the mayor, I think we should have the option of having a ranked choice vote for mayor. But from what I understand, currently state law would not allow that. So I just think it'd be good to, I mean, it's probably not going to work, but we should at least try to open up all the options we can, because I think if we're going to be redoing how we elect our officials, ranked choice seems to be the way to be going. So I just think we should try to add that to our legislative priorities, just so it give us more options when the time comes for discussing how we choose our mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Finkel, thank you. If any other member of the public would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature on Zoom, or letting Sherry know if you're in the City Hall.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. There is no further public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkel, thank you. I'd bring it back to the commission for comment, statements, or a motion.
Mayor, this is Commissioner Shipley. I did want to bring up that I believe that support for Peasley Tech was added after we had the discussion previously. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone noticed that and was okay with that.
Mayor Figla, thank you for that. Any other comments on that or the other items or a motion?
Commissioner Larson, I just appreciate Vice Mayor pointing that out on Peasley because it is important, and I did notice that. As far as ranked choice voting, I think it definitely warrants a conversation. I've read some about it. I don't know completely. I don't know if I fully understand it, but the information I've read so far, I think it's very intriguing and a process that maybe should be considered, but I don't know if I would be willing to put it on our legislative priority list at this time, but it definitely is worth more thought.
This is Commissioner Ananda. I think I agree with your position on that, Commissioner Larson, as far as moving forward on that right now, versus waiting until we kind of know what next steps are in that conversation.
Vice Mayor Shipley, I also agree, but I also wonder, sometimes these legislative letters sneak up on us. How can we remember next year to ask staff to do a little research on that?
This is Commissioner Ananda. I think you just did.
Mayor Figla, I agree on that. And certainly if it comes up if we end up having discussion about form of government, which I think we will at some point, and that discussion comes up, nothing says you can only ask the legislature something once in your legislative priority statement. We can certainly add things as it goes along. Is there a motion or further discussion?
This is Commissioner Ananda. I would move that we adopt the 2021 legislative priority statement.
Commissioner Larson, second.
Mayor Fingeldar, we have a motion by Commissioner Ananda, a second by Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Ananda?
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Bully?
Aye.
Mayor Fingeldar, aye. Passes 5-0. Before we move to the next item on the consent agenda, and Porter can help me on this as well, but we all, without our esteemed video master tonight, and so we're doing it as a more traditional Zoom. And so we don't normally do this because our video master is controlling that. But if you are not speaking on an item, if you would turn your video off, that allows the people who are speaking to be seen on the screen on TV. So if you are not speaking, we'd ask that you turn your video off and then turn it back on when you're ready to speak. And that will help us with the TV viewing audience. Appreciate that. Okay. With that, let us move to C8G. And Commissioner Lawson, I know you pulled this, I think, related to some questions submitted by Cindy Maud, but I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially, I'm asking about the concerns regarding the 3 unrelated individuals and whether that's accurately reflected in the lease agreement. And if staff could talk about that a little bit more, as well as the concern that the stormwater issues in that neighborhood, if the rental of this or the leasing of this property would ever slow down that project, which right now is in our CIP.
Mayor Fingeldar, someone from staff able to address those questions?
Yes, my name is Scott Wagner. I'm a legal analyst with the City Attorney's Office. And I think first I've got to say, I remember December 16th, 2000 very well. I think Casey Toomey and I took one of the very first rides on the Lawrence Transit System, and that was a happy day in Lawrence. And that proclamation just reminded me of that day and put a smile on my face. As to the lease agreement for 812 Ohio, I did talk to Matt Bond today about the CIP that is on our planned CIP list right now for improvement of the stormwater system in that area. Matt also told me that he is working right now on the RFP for the design and study of the Jayhawk watershed district. And once we issue that contract and get the results of that study back, that will present us with the design guidelines for improving the stormwater system in that area. And I would also point out that the commission just adopted the stormwater rate ordinance tonight as well on second reading, and that will provide the ongoing funding stream for providing those stormwater improvements in the CIP. As to the question about the 3 unrelated individuals, I did follow up with Brian Jimenez in our code enforcement division, and that is governed by the RS zoning district, in which no more than 3 unrelated individuals can reside in a rental unit in those RS districts. So that is mentioned in the lease agreement, so I think we have it covered. But I would be happy to defer to Randy Larkin on that issue as well. And I believe Cindy Maud mentioned the maintenance of the property of 812 Ohio. I did follow up with our staff. Cindy and I talked a few weeks ago. We did get some sidewalk improvements along the frontage of that property after we talked to get the sidewalk up to city code standards. So that has been done. And I also followed up with our staff on the yard and leaf removal, and I will follow up again today on that. That has not been accomplished yet. So I do expect that tenants to homeowners and their maintenance staff will keep the property probably in much better shape than the city has done. We are not in the rental property business, and that's why we've got this agenda item on tonight, so we can make use of the property in a positive manner for the next 1 or 2 years, hopefully, until the stormwater project comes along. And I do believe the lease provisions will allow us to get out of the lease if indeed the stormwater project may impact the rental of the property. Thank you.
This is Randy Larkin, Deputy City Attorney. I would point out that under the lease, the tenant is required to follow all city codes, and that would include the occupancy limits of 3 unrelated persons in that property. So they would be required to follow that law, or they would be in breach of the lease agreement.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you, Randy and Scott. Commissioner Lawson, follow-up questions? Or anyone else follow-up questions before I open it to the public?
Commissioner Larson, no, I don't. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you. If this is an item you'd like to speak on, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, and or raise your hand. I see Cindy Maud raising her hand, and she submitted the letter. Anyone else though can raise their hand or tell Sherry in City Hall.
Okay, this is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Cindy Maud, if you want to go ahead and please state your name, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, this is Cindy Maud, and after I sent the public comment today, Scott Wagner did reply, and I feel like he addressed all my issues. And so I'm satisfied with the responses, and I appreciate the response. And I think the main thing is that we just ask you to really consider making the stormwater drain improvement a priority in the near future. And that's all. So thank you. Scott has been very helpful throughout this and always very responsive, and I appreciate it. That's all I have to say. I'm satisfied with the responses.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you.
Chris Flowers, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted I see an opportunity just to say that I'm against the 3-person occupancy limit of 3 people of non-related being barred from living together. It's not really fair. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I echo Chris Flowers. I do not also think it's fair to limit non-related occupants to 3 in a residence. So that's it.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Mayor, I believe that's all the public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you. I bring it back to the commission for comments or motions.
This is Commissioner Larson, and I move to authorize the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Tenesta Homeowners Incorporated for the property located at 812 Ohio Street.
Commissioner Hernandez, second.
Mayor Finkel, aye. We have a motion by Commissioner Lawson, a second by Commissioner Ananda. Commissioner Lawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ananda,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bully,
Aye.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Passes 5-0. We'll now move to item C8M, which is regarding the transient guest tax. I'm not sure who pulled this, but Sherry, if you could let me know that.
Yes, this is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Michael Davidson, you want to go ahead and state your name? You have 3 minutes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm having a little trouble with my computer.
We can hear you.
Great, okay. It's Michael Davidson, Executive Director of Explore Lawrence. What you have before you is the recommendations for the funding to the transient guest tax grant program. While I have no objections at all to the awards that are being recommended, I think it would be a good idea if commissioners maybe viewed the video of the meeting. I think the discussion was very informative. The hard work the committee is putting on making these decisions, but also recognizing that this fund is not stable moving forward, and even some recommendations on maybe how to make sure this program be funded in the future. So that's all my comments. I just think if you can spend a little time, grab a little popcorn, watch the meeting, and get the insight of the group that really is working on the project. So thank you very much for your time.
Mayor Finkel, if anyone else would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, or if you're present in the City Hall, let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. There's no public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkel, thank you. I bring it back to the commission for questions or motions.
Vice Mayor Shipley, I wonder if Porter or someone could link that meeting to the memo so we can find it easier.
Certainly, I thought it was, but I'll have to double check, but I'll make sure if it's not there, I'll make sure it's part of that.
This is Commissioner Bowley. I move that we approve the 2021 transient guest tax TGT grant recommendations from the TGT Grant Advisory Board.
Commissioner Larson, second.
Mayor Finkel, we have a motion by Commissioner Bully, a second by Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Bully,
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley. You're on mute.
Oh, aye.
Commissioner Ananda,
Aye.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Passes 5-0. Brings us to item C8B, which is regarding the ESG CARES Act and an agreement with the hotel, the O'Connor Lodge, and the project there. And I certainly don't have an issue with the agreement as presented in the item as presented in that process. But Brandon, maybe you can help us here. The memo talks about how if there's going to be some sheltering that we're not able to do with this program, and if we wanted to consider some additional sheltering options, that we'd want to do that, somewhat separate of this, but in a different process. And I know you've been our point person on this, and if you had any thoughts or suggestions on how we might supplement that or proceed, or if you have any comments on that, I appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about this program. If you will humor me, and let me start again and say this is Brandon McGuire, Assistant City Manager, before Sherry corrects me on that. If you will humor me a little bit, I do want to provide a little bit of background information on the program, and then I'll jump right into some of the discussions we've had about additional needs and options. So just to reiterate some information that's in the agenda report tonight, as a result of the ongoing pandemic, our goal with this program is to provide a non-congregate shelter, alternatives to to the typical congregate shelter that we see. And that's really motivated by the need, the desire to minimize the risk of transmission of the coronavirus among some of our most vulnerable community members. And we do think that that congregate environment that we would traditionally use for a winter shelter would not accomplish the safety goals that we have for these guests. And so that's where this program was really motivated, and those conversations about how we do that in a safe way is what led ultimately to this, after quite a flurry of work over the last month and a half or so. I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge some of the partners that have been extremely helpful and express some gratitude for especially the community shelter and Bird and Ash, Renee and Matthew and David. Those folks have been absolutely fantastic to work with, and have committed a lot of their time free of charge to advise us on this project. Also, Michael Davidson, who you just heard from, and his colleague Kinder Brayfield with Explorer Lawrence. They've collaborated with us and generated a very impressive amount of interest from our area hotels. And so finally, I'd like to thank our area hotels, the property owners, the managers, the staff who have really stepped up to be great corporate citizens and expressed willingness to partner with us on this sort of program, which is a risk to them. And I think we've seen them really come around and step up in a great way in response to our RFP. So as you mentioned, Mayor, this is a good program that we've put together, and it will serve, we think, up to 80 people, 80 guests, as we place guests of the program into housing options that will free up additional capacity. But on any given night, we would expect to be able to house about 80 guests through the duration of this program, which is expected for 90 days. In addition to that, we have Camp Woody, which has 20 tents, and we're housing, sheltering anywhere from 20 to 21, 22 people in the tents at Camp Woody. We have been able to exit 2 of those guests and place them into stable housing, which we're very excited to be able to report. And then finally, the other emergency shelter option or overnight shelter option in the community is the Lawrence Community Shelter. Their capacity right now through the pandemic, and as they work through some much needed maintenance and improvements at their property, is limited to 40 individuals. So that gives us about anywhere from around 125 to 130 people who are being sheltered through those 3 options. Through communication with many of our community partners, we have information that still leaves well in excess of 100 people who are unsheltered. So obviously the need far outweighs the capacity. And so with that in mind, we have discussed a number of different options. I'll do a quick review of 3 options and give you a little bit of our logic for why we would or would not be supportive, that the staff would or would not be supportive of those options. And then maybe turn it back to you, Mayor, to lead some conversation amongst the commissioners. So the first option we discussed is going back to kind of the basic congregate shelter facility. That idea is really not supported by staff for a number of reasons. It gives us concern. The first, like I said, is the risk of transmission. Our inability to, our feeling of being unable to keep people safe in that environment. And in addition to that, by city code, at most we'd be able to shelter 40 people in that environment. With distancing guidelines and safety protocol, it would most likely be quite a bit fewer than that. So, and as we've discussed, that falls far short of the need. And so, so we're not recommending that option at all. A second option that we've discussed and have really tried to work through quite a bit is adding an additional hotel property. And so this would really look somewhat similar to the program proposal before you this evening, where we would pursue a large block of rooms for an extended duration and bring another hotel under contract. I will say that the staff is hesitant to recommend that option. And it's really due to the lack of program management capacity, and especially among our partner agencies and city staff. The city does not employ social workers or case managers. And so we don't currently have those types of skill sets on our staff. Our community partners, we know in particular, the community shelter in Burt Nash are maxed out in their capacity. They are stretching their capacity to the max with the Woody Park Camp and with the ESG shelter program proposal before you this evening. So when we bring in guests, those are people who are in the care of the city and of any partner agencies. And we really have to provide a level of service and a level of support for not only the guests, but for the hotel and the surrounding community in order to make sure that we are very successful with keeping people and property safe. And so we're hesitant to recommend that option. A third option that we've been discussing is, and it's been more in concept, we don't have a proposal for you this evening, but would love to hear some feedback, is to work with our community agencies, our partner agencies who work directly with community members experiencing homelessness. And one of the things that they do is on a particularly cold night, if, for example, the community shelter, if their bed capacity is maxed out, they'll do social work. They'll do some problem solving, and they will try to find alternatives, whether that's a different shelter or whether that's a hotel room. They'll try to find alternatives to put people who come to them for help in a room, in a bed, safe and warm. And so we're thinking along the lines of funding those partner agencies who do work directly with community members experiencing homelessness, to give them additional resources to help them do more of that work. So on the coldest nights, or based on some sort of criteria, weather-based or otherwise, they would have access to funding from the city that would allow them to better serve and be more successful at landing those community members in hotel rooms. And in addition to that, we could also potentially use the city's leverage and the relationships we've built with the hotels over the last couple of weeks to try to negotiate some more favorable pricing and some agreements that would make it even easier for placement of those guests into hotels, working through some of our community agencies, such as the community shelter in Burt Nash. So that's really the option that we think shows the most promise, and that's something that we'd certainly appreciate your feedback on. I will say also, sorry, Mayor, that we have several members of our project team from city staff on the call. Danny Walters, she's our expert with ESG funding, CDBG, et cetera. Derek Rogers, who's got a lot of expertise so far with the Woody Park Camp and working that project with his staff and with Bird Nash. I believe Penny Holler is also on the call, and she has done just a tremendous amount of heavy lifting to get the proposal before you tonight. And then I believe that Renee Kuhl is on the call, and potentially some of our partners from Bird Nash.
Mayor Finkel, Brandon, thank you very much for that. A few follow-up questions, and then I'll see if other commissioners have follow-up questions. So I guess the first question is, what I hear you saying is creating a voucher type program for hotel rooms run through our partner agencies. Is that what you're thinking?
Assistant City Manager Brandon McGuire. Yes, Mayor, something along those lines, where the city would essentially fund room nights. The city may not necessarily take the lead on placing folks in those rooms, but the city would be the direct funder of that.
Mayor Finkel, so as I think that through, one issue is negotiating with hotels to come up with a system where they accept our vouchers for a set rate and that sort of thing. And then the second would be negotiating with our community partners to kind of create this program and get people who need it to those locations. Is that what I understand?
Assistant City Manager Brandon McGuire. Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Mayor Finkel, thank you. And I know we've put in for maybe $50,000 to run some sort of winter shelter program, and maybe Danny can help. I think that's a request right now that has not been approved. Is that correct?
This is Danny Walters with Planning and Development. Yes, we thought perhaps that the current project might overrun some. So we put in for an extra 50,000 to try to cover kind of those last few weeks of the project. So it is just an application. It's not guaranteed funding. So and it was just due today. So.
Mayor Finkel, but that could be used either for the Econo Lodge project, or could it be used for this project?
Danny Walters, Planning and Development Services. It could be used just for winter shelter. So really these, the ESG CARES Act funds are pretty flexible in this temporary shelter piece because it is such a large part of the pandemic response. So yeah, I mean, if it's in a different hotel, that's fine. If it's just going to rooms, that's fine. So.
Mayor Finkel, and that is, as I recall, those are all reimbursement projects. So we'd spend the money first, then reimburse ourselves. Is that correct?
This is Danny Walters with Planning and Development Services. Yes, that is correct. ESG does work on a reimbursement basis.
Mayor Finkel, so even the 250,000 we're talking about on the Econo Lodge Lawrence Community Shelter project, that is, we'll spend that and get reimbursed?
Danny Walters, Planning and Development Services, that's correct.
Okay. And Mayor Finkel, Brandon, well, I don't know if I have any other, well, let me think about that. Danny, maybe this is a question for you. Do you have any thoughts about, I know we had this, what we call ESG 1.5. I mean, we just did round 2. We're putting in some more requests. Do you have a feel for if there's any more ESG money, CDBG money coming down the pipe?
Danny Walters, Planning and Development Services. Not that I know of. Honestly, I wasn't expecting the 1.5 round. The 1.5 was additional funds that the state had yet to allocate. And the state was aware of kind of what we had going on with the unsheltered population here. So they reached out to us and said, can you use some money to help? And obviously, yes, we could. I don't know if that's going to be the case with the second round. I believe the state is working with about 9 million to disperse for ESG CV round 2. I know that one of their large focus points is to get that money statewide. I think the money thus far has been really concentrated in some of the heavier populated areas. It's also been utilized a lot by folks that understand how that program works. So, you know, I can't predict if there's going to be anything additional to access, but, you know, all we can do is put ourselves in line in case there is, so.
Mayor Finkeldine, well, certainly if they reach back out, we can say yes again.
Danny Walters, PDS, I wouldn't say no, so.
Mayor Finkeldine, well, Brandon, I appreciate you and Danny and Penny and staff working on a proposal, you know, that we might be able to put in front of you. You know, I guess one of my thoughts would be to, you know, maybe after we have some discussion here to come up with a process where we direct you to continue to work on this project and get it up and running, and you know, report back to us. But anyway, those are my questions for now. Commissioners, do you have other questions for Brandon or others?
Yeah, Commissioner Larson, I've got just a couple of questions. Brandon, you had indicated that the third option is what staff is recommending, working with our partner organizations. Have we spoke to them about their desire or their willingness to participate in this type of situation?
Assistant City Manager Brandon McGuire. Yes, Commissioner Larson, through phone calls and emails, we have presented that question of, and we kind of talked through it early on, through that thought exercise of, well, what do we do if we're at max capacity and we have additional people show up? You know, and the response is that they do the social work and they try to, you know, they do some problem solving. They try to land them in a different hotel. And so I did reach back out to them just today to see if that's something that at least Bert Nash and the community shelter would be interested in, or would that just be money that they wouldn't be able to spend? They both indicated that they're pretty confident they could put that money to good use.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Larson, I just have one more question for Danny. You said we just submitted an application for that additional monies, $50,000, was it? Is that correct? Can you tell, yeah, Daniel, do you know when we'll hear back from that?
Danny Walters, Planning and Development Services. I am not for sure on that. The grant term that the application states is from January to December. So one would think that it would be sooner rather than later, but it's, I mean, we've definitely started ESG years several months after the grant term started. So I really can't tell. It probably depends on the amount of applications they get. I know one of their main goals is to really get this money out into the communities as quickly as possible. So I'm hoping that it's a much quicker process than.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Mayor Finkeldine, other questions before I open it to public comment? Mayor Finkeldine, I see none. If there are members of the public who would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. And if you're present, let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. We did have a few individuals who indicated when they registered that they wanted to speak to this item. So I'm going to go ahead and start with those. Caitlin McDermott, if you would go ahead and unmute and state your name, you'll have 3 minutes.
She was just there, but I think maybe, there it is.
Can you hear me?
Mayor Finkeldine, yes, we can now.
Sorry. My hands are too cold for my screen to work. I'm just going to go ahead without the video. I'm sorry about that. My name is Caitlin McDermott, and I've lived in Lawrence for 15 years. Our oldest son passed away in 2017. For a time, he was homeless in Lawrence, and for a time, he was homeless in other cities. He was the kind of young man who would literally give you the shirt off his back if you needed a shirt. He likely knew many of the people who are currently camped out with nowhere to go in our community tonight. He taught me a lot about compassion. I do a lot of walking. My dog and I walk the levee trails and the trails in Bircham and Riverside Park. We've hiked on both trails and through the woods, and there is a never-ending amount of people camping out in the heat of summer and the bitter cold of winter. Last winter was when I first started talking to the commission about doing something in our community, something bold and comprehensive for the homeless. It seems like a lifetime ago. I know our city, like our country, has faced unexpected and sometimes unbelievable challenges this year. I am amazed at the work being done by the people like Renee Cool at the Lawrence Community Shelter. I was excited to see the work at Woody Park come to fruition. I'm continually stunned by the amount that community members give to each other through Ladybird Diner, Sunrise Project, Just Food, and more. But it's not enough. My heart breaks knowing that we are still falling short for our most vulnerable citizens. We are falling short in our compassion. Last year, we had an emergency winter shelter where people could go when it was freezing out. This year, we have nothing to offer over 100 souls when it gets cold, and it's already cold. We are stuck now. Put this plan through to cover the people already at the hotel until March and disregard the other 100 in the cold, or try to rework the plan before December 30th and cover more people for less time, still falling short of covering all. Or try and find other funding sources to get more hotel rooms elsewhere at a time when funds are short and winter is already here. I don't know what's best. I do know that we should not celebrate a holiday season until this matter is taken care of. Until everyone who wants to come in from the cold this winter has a safe and warm place to lay their head, none of us should rest. None of us should celebrate. I ask that before leaving tonight that you assure the community that everyone that wants to can come in from the cold for the entire winter. Please authorize funding to make this happen. Thank you.
Sherilyn Wells, if you want to unmute, you'll have 3 minutes.
The folks that I have known that have passed away in Lawrence, and I've known 6 or 7 people, have all been people with behavioral health problems. I've known people with mental illness to die in the heat. I've known people with mental illness to freeze to death. And I am very concerned that there is not any place for some of these folks to go. When I volunteered at the winter shelter last year, I saw people there that had serious mental illness, and the longer they stayed, they started to do better and were more talkative. At first, some of them were hardly talking to anyone. I don't know how we can call ourselves a recovery-oriented community when we have this many people living outside. I very much appreciate all the work that people are doing, but I really believe that anyone that wants to get off the street when it's really cold should have the option to do so. And I hope that the commission supports this and that we can think of some way to do it. If the providers are maxed out, could we use part of the emergency shelter funding to hire more staff? Thank you very much.
Tony Kaufman.
Yeah, this is Tony Kaufman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I love how Lawrence shows compassion for those less fortunate in our communities in so many ways. And I certainly hope that this commission, with the help from our community, is somehow able to develop plans to provide shelter for all the current homeless populations, especially on nights when temperatures are so dangerous. And I know that COVID is a variable that has to be taken into consideration, but God willing, some plan can be drawn up and implemented. And if volunteer work is part of the plan, I'll certainly be one of the first to sign up. Last winter, I was a regular volunteer at what I call the last line of defense, the Overflow Lawrence Winter Shelter, ultimately located at 3 different churches. I spent many nights manning the shelter along with other volunteers, and we witnessed firsthand how, had these emergency shelters not been available, there very well could have been death. There could have been more serious injuries, like the gentleman who suffered the extreme frostbite that I'm sure many of you have heard about. He stayed at our shelter after being released from the hospital. He was in horrible shape. It's a memory I hope I never have to personally live again. He had a sack of medicine that he could barely hold on to, and he would ask for help ensuring that correct meds were taken, and it was really a sad deal. I witnessed panicking individuals in the middle of the night, banging on the church doors, begging to be let in when it was absolutely freezing out. These individuals either thought they could make it without adequate shelter that night, or the shelter that they thought that they had available fell through. And obviously, out of compassion, we always let them in, even though technically the doors were locked and we weren't supposed to, but we weren't going to turn away any human that was out in the cold and needed shelter. My volunteer work at the emergency shelter was so rewarding because you could directly see that on a real-time basis, we were saving lives and saving serious injuries from occurring. Again, I just hope that we can come up with plans that can be implemented to shelter all of the homeless. And I thank you for your time.
This is Sherry Reedman, City Clerk. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak? Please raise your hand either virtually or physically. Janelle Johnson, please unmute. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Janelle Johnson. City Commissioners, I thank you for the privilege to speak with you this evening. I think there are 6 people signed on as Janelle Johnson. I shared my link so you could see the faces of other people who care about this issue, and I do apologize for any confusion. I had the privilege of welcoming guests to last year's emergency homeless shelter. As the temperatures dropped last winter, more and more people showed up needing a warm place to sleep. One night when I worked there, there were 58 people who showed up between 7:30 p.m. and 1:30 a.m., my shift that night. I want to tell you about Randy, a man I met about a year ago. He was a regular guest at the emergency shelter. He worked as a dishwasher and worked about 4 hours a day. He told me that the bus service ended at 10 p.m. and he would need to walk from J. Wilson's, the northwestern corner of Lawrence, to the emergency shelter at First United Methodist, which is downtown. One night he arrived in the emergency shelter completely soaked. He was drenched from washing dishes. He arrived at 1 a.m. He'd been walking for more than 2.5 hours. It was about 10 degrees that night with a fierce wind. His jeans were frozen solid, and they were the only pants he owned. Randy had my cell phone number and would call occasionally for a ride, and once when he needed his glasses fixed. He transitioned to living in his own rented room, and then with COVID, he was no longer needed. His J. Wilson's closed, and when they reopened, they only served takeout. I asked J. Wilson's, and he never returned to work there. Randy's homeless again. I've tried to call him several times. I lost touch with him in April. He's not answered any of my calls, and he's not called me. I wonder where he's sleeping tonight without emergency housing. My weather app says it will get down to 21 degrees tonight. I want you to know that the guests I have met are someone's brother, sister, son, daughter, mom, dad, or grandparent. They all have a face and a name, and I learned a lot just by helping them. Some of them work in restaurants or other service jobs. Most of them rely on their feet as their primary form of transportation. A majority of them say thank you even for just a cup of coffee. They all have a history and a story of events that contributed to their homelessness. Due to COVID-19, operating a church-based emergency congregate shelter this year is not an option. Please provide a warm place to sleep on the coldest nights for the houseless people that actually call Lawrence home. My request to you is to commit funds to house anyone seeking shelter from frostbite or death for the entire winter season. Thank you for your consideration.
That's, so somebody else is listed in the same name.
It is a different person. This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. It does look like there is another individual with their hand raised under the name Janelle Johnson. If that is not the last speaker, please go ahead and unmute and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes. Start their video.
Oh, I'm not Janelle Johnson. My name is Steve Ozark, and I'm speaking to you tonight as co-chair of the Homeless Committee for the Justice Matters, as well as one of the organizers of last year's winter shelter. And as you are hearing, we have a crisis that last week I think was unclear with the ESG funds that you passed, that the 68 people that currently exist in the Travel Lodge will continue that, thankfully, with that money you passed, plus about 12 more people, leaving at least 100 people in this gap that we're talking about tonight. And I do want to emphasize that last year, despite occupancy ordinances, we were told by good people of leadership that we were to do the right thing and everybody had shelter. And certainly on a night like tonight, we would have had 50 or 60 people come to us. My story from last year was a young lady who came that had been abused that evening. And she came back, brought her child and stayed with us for 3 nights and got out of a abusive situation where you could see what had been done to her. And we were able to get her a bus pass to get her to go to South Dakota so she could get out of the situation. We unfortunately have a history here where people have died and then the city's responded. Actually, I'm told that the Lawrence Community Shelter and the Coalition for Homeless Concerns began after a number of people had died on our streets, and the city said, hey, we got to take care of this. That's how I got involved. We asked you some years ago for funding, and tonight we're asking you for the complete funding, the assurance of the complete funding, and Brandon McGuire has given in this agenda item the path to do that with the general funds. I can't thank enough to all the city workers, the county, the social workers, everybody working so hard in this pandemic. And I especially thank the city for taking responsibility for the shelter this year. I know this is not an easy thing, and I very much admire that. But I would like for the commissioners tonight to give their clear and unanimous support that you will be certain that no one will be left out in the cold. Thank you.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. I just want to make sure one last time, since we do have quite a few people, that there isn't anyone else on Zoom who wanted to provide comment on this item. If so, please raise your hand physically or virtually. Okay, we'll go ahead. There is one individual in here who would like to make a comment. You can go ahead and come to the podium.
Eric Hyde. I'm hearing the same thing from all of you, which is good. Get them inside these shelters that you're going to create out of the CARES Act funding, which is good. What I'm not hearing, which we need to consider and address immediately, is how we can support homeless individuals even before they get to the shelter, before they lose an arm, freezing in the cold, or toes. I mean, they can call 911, they can take care of them that way, and then they can get a shelter. But for stuff I'll talk about later, they still need support with supplies for their campsites so they can stay warmer. And I'll just mention really quick that those supplies, I've reduced the list that I came up with last week to save money, but those supplies, really all they include are tents, tarps, poly sheets. This will cover their tents, will insulate their tents more, will keep them warm. I used to be a paramedic. I understand about cold weather emergencies. But other than that, I mean, that'll keep them a little bit warmer. We can also do things like firewood, which will definitely keep them warm in emergencies. But yeah, like, it is impossible, well, not impossible, but almost impossible to get all the homeless off the streets in the winter. It's just gonna be really hard. You have to have a really big staff for that. You gotta have a lot of committed people. It's a good thing to try and do. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying we gotta support them in their lives out of a shelter. Like, I'll talk about this all later, but I mean, I'm an expert camper. I've camped in the cold. You just got to layer up if you're surviving. Oh, my time's running out, but I've already said it. Just support them when they're not in a shelter too, and continue what you're doing.
Mayor, this is Sherry Reedman, City Clerk. There was one more individual who wanted to speak on Zoom. Renee, cool, if you want to go ahead.
And thank you to the commissioners for this discussion about this issue tonight. Thank you so much for all of the, thoughtful questions, and the proposals we're entertaining. Thank you so much to the city staff, Brandon, Danelle, Penny, just amazing professionals that I've been working with over the last month to plan the hotel shelter at the Econo Lodge. And I want to address the group of folks that are speaking tonight about their concern for folks experiencing homelessness who are currently unsheltered. We're going to do everything we can to address this. And we're going to do everything we can to work to not turn people away from LCS or the hotel. We have a lot of options. And Brandon has shared some of them. I've shared even more with commissioners and city staff outside of this conversation. And I want to bring all of you into that conversation. So if you could go to lawrenceshelter.org/volunteer, fill out the form and get connected to my volunteer manager, Lacey. That's a great way for you to connect with us. And whatever else we do this winter beyond hotel shelter, we will need volunteer help. So please get signed up to participate with us. The last thing I want to say is that, this has been a very awful year to witness homelessness and try to address homelessness for everybody across the country. And it has been lethal to be homeless every day this year. And it is not just lethal when it gets cold outside. And I have to confront that every day in my work. And so when you consider the folks that last year you encountered at the winter shelter, and you think about the barriers to housing that you observed, the behavioral health disorders that you observed, the depth of the poverty and trauma that you observed, ask yourself, which of those people were ready to be housed? which were ready to be housed in your perception, in your mind right now? The answer is all of them. The answer is all of them. There is not a person outside today who is beyond being housed, and being housed is the best place that they can be to overcome trauma, to move on from a behavioral health disorder, and to become recovered. And housing is as urgent as shelter and can be deployed just as quickly. And so I've shared with the commissioners that if we're going to open up our general fund at this point, what we urgently need in this community, we don't have money for, is rapid rehousing. So I just want to be frank with people on this call who are fellow advocates, that what's missing is an investment in housing. Thanks, guys.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Mayor, I believe that's all the public comment that we have.
Mayor Finkel, I thank you. We'll bring it back up to the commission and maybe I'll start here. Certainly, I also want to thank Renee for the great work at LCS and Bert Nash, Derek. You know, again, when we started this year, no one thought Derek would be running a homeless campsite. And I know Renee didn't think she'd have 40 people, you know, and because of all of the trauma. And certainly, you know, as this year started, I thought we would be working on a community winter shelter in a church again that booked like I did last year. And we were going to have, you know, increase the capacity and help people. And I think it worked well last year. And absent COVID, I think it would have worked well again this year. I certainly didn't volunteer to the extent as some of the speakers. I volunteered a couple times and was there and met some of the folks. And the need is greater than it was back then. So I certainly appreciate what the staff has done, and the proposal kind of Brandon's been working on. Certainly, from my point of view, obviously I want to support the agenda item and the work done on the O'Connor Lodge with LCS. I think that's a very, very important step. But and obviously I want the feedback of the commission here, but I would like to, at the end of this at least, direct staff, direct Brandon to continue to work with the hotels and work with our service providers to come up with a winter shelter type voucher system and go ahead and get that implemented. And, you know, we don't have the 50,000 from ESG, but, you know, again, we've been pretty successful, and, you know, I'd recommend we have to front that anyway, get that program up and running. And then as we get it up and running and see how it's working, to bring it back to the commission in January, you know, to consider either future funding or a project, a different project, see how it's going, and kind of go from there. I certainly trust Brandon and our providers to do that. I mean, certainly it's an option to wait till January 5th to do something, but that's a long time in the cold, and I'd prefer not to do that. Anyway, those are kind of my thoughts. But if commissioners have questions of staff or their own thoughts, I'd certainly be open to that.
Vice Mayor Shipley, Mayor, are you suggesting starting at 50,000 from the general fund?
Mayor Finkel, yes, 50,000 with the understanding we would hope to reimburse that with the ESG funds, and then consider, if we get them, and then consider a future program, you know, back in January when we were able to see how it exactly set up, and Brandon has some more details for us.
This is Commissioner Ananda. I would be inclined to agree with that. We think that this would give us an opportunity to get through the year, particularly since we're in line for those funds, and to develop a program that could last and that could be something, you know, that we continue to consider, particularly in the winter. I know that this was, well, I'm not going to say that this was an issue last year. It's an issue every year. And it's an issue that we, just like many other broader social issues that are the result of poverty, of trauma, of, you know, mental health issues, et cetera. That primary prevention piece is the part that we're always trying to get to, but we have to spend so much time in intervention. And if we really do focus and create an intervention strategy that allows us to free ourselves a little bit and look at that primary prevention piece, I think we're going to serve our community better over time.
This is Commissioner Larson. I have one question for staff. Is that okay if I ask that, Mayor? The mayor is recommending $50,000 to start with. Would that $50,000 address the needs of those approximately 100 unsheltered right now? Brandon, I guess, Brandon.
Yes, Assistant City Manager Brandon McGuire. Thanks, Commissioner Larson, for the question. I think that this is a good approach because I think it will give us an idea of the number of people who will try to access the program, and so 50,000 very well may not get us through the whole winter. In fact, I think we could probably all count that it won't. But this will get us through an interim period at least, and give us some data on the number of people accessing the program, and then we can come back. The staff can come back for additional funding requests as we learn more about that. So I'm confident that that $50,000 in the short term is going to be sufficient while we go ahead and get started with this.
Commissioner Larson, thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that. Commissioner Larson, again, I don't see anything that the mayor said or the vice mayor said that, actually I agree with what they're saying, I should say. Obviously, this, given the situation with the pandemic, it totally has basically changed the entire dynamics of the coal shelter needs, because we have to work towards non-congregate type sheltering, which I wholly 100% support. And given that situation this year, I would definitely be in favor of moving forward with the proposal made by the mayor.
Mayor Finkeldine, just a little to follow up on Brandon's answer. I guess I know we're paying $43 a night, I think, for the O'Connor Lodge, but at $50 a night, $50,000, that's 1,000 room nights. As we get this program up and running and get us, into early January at the minimum, even if it's highly utilized. And of course, probably depends a lot on the weather between now and then, on how many really cold nights we have, as well as getting that out. But I do think I certainly don't think you'll get us through the winter, but I think you'll get us to a point where we can see how the program's working and come up with a more consistent model. We also might know more about ESG funds and other possibilities, relief funds, other funds that might be available by early January. So that's sort of my thought process. But I want to go ahead and get it up and running and get it going because it's cold out there.
This is Commissioner Boley. I'd like to start out by just expressing my gratitude to the people who've been working on this. This is such a difficult issue for our community, and you're doing such important work. I would like to thank city staff, people at our partner agencies, people in the public, and I'd also like to thank Mayor Finkeldine for leadership on this issue. I'll support your proposal.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you for those comments. And well, I'd say I'm a small part of this. Other people are working hard on this. I would like to echo, before I forgot, what Brandon said. We had 6 hotels who had responded to our RFP, and I think we'll be able to work with them and obviously to the extent we can put people in there, that also gives some help to our hotels, who are certainly struggling entities as well, that we could get them a little cash flow coming in as well. So I think that's a side benefit, I guess. So I guess maybe I would make the motion just because I've thought a little bit about this and then see if I can get a second. And Brandon, as I make this motion, make sure you think it gives you the clarity you need. But I would move that we direct staff to enter into negotiations and agreement with partner agencies and local hotels to create a winter shelter voucher program, expending up to $50,000, not to exceed $50,000, and to report back to us in January with how that occurred and future recommendations.
Vice Mayor Shipley, second.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you. Before I take a vote on that, one, I'd ask either both Brandon and Sherry. One, Brandon, do you think that gives you the direction you need? And Sherry, did I say it well enough that you got that for the minutes?
Assistant City Manager Brandon McGuire, I just want to be clear that you are comfortable with staff or the manager going ahead and executing any necessary MOUs or agreements.
Mayor Finkeldine, that's what I intended by that, yes.
Thank you. I do take that from the motion. I just wanted to be extra clear.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. So Brandon, you're comfortable with the language that was included? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Finkeldine, do any commissioners have a question about the motion before we move to a vote?
Commissioner Ananda, do we also need the formal language from B? Any of that included?
Mayor Finkeldine, you're correct. Let's vote on this and then we'll make a motion on B. I might look to you to do that after we do this.
This is Commissioner Roy. I appreciate doing a separate motion.
Okay. Mayor Finkeldine, then hearing nothing further, further on the motion I made, Mayor Finkeldine votes aye. Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Ananda?
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bully?
Aye.
Thank you very much for that. And maybe Commissioner Ananda, do you have a motion on the agenda item?
We don't need to modify that. This Commissioner Ananda, we don't need to modify that, correct? Okay. I move that we authorize the city manager to sign the First Amendment to the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act agreement with the Lawrence Community Shelter to provide temporary winter shelter program management and grant administration, and sign a contract with Stria Inc., doing business as Econolodge University, to provide hotel rooms for the Emergency Solutions Grant winter shelter program.
Commissioner Larson, second.
Mayor Finkeldine, we have a motion by Commissioner Ananda, a second by Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Ananda?
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Bully?
Aye.
Mayor Finkeldine, aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments and all your hard work. And Brandon, appreciate all you're doing and will do in the coming days. Appreciate that. Okay, we are now moving to public comment. The public is allowed to speak to any items or issues except those scheduled on the consent agenda or regular agenda portions of the agenda. As a general practice, the commission will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the commission make any decisions on items presented during this time. Rather, they will refer the items to staff for follow-up if necessary. Individuals should address all comments and questions to the commission. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes. If you would like to make general public comment, please raise your hand if you're on Zoom via the Zoom function, or if you're present, please let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Chris Flowers, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Chris Flowers, and earlier it was a proclamation about Lawrence Transit, but I'm here because I'm ready to party because the Bike Boulevard looks like it's been completed. I don't know if you all noticed, but at 21st and Mass, they finished the right turn only part So I'm just here to celebrate. That's right. And most people, they'd be thinking, no one's using this bike boulevard. There's no cars on it. So why are we now going to make it right turn only when there's no cars on it? I mean, you would think that anyone with half a brain might do some kind of traffic study to get the kind of numbers to justify the right turn only part. I mean, like when it was originally done, it was different, basically. I'm sorry, but sorry, I've been drinking too much from all the consent agenda stuff. But basically, I'm for the bike boulevard now because I realized that right turn only, it wasn't about reducing traffic because traffic was already reduced. What wasn't on the bike boulevard was bikes. But now that we've got the right turn only part made, the era of bikes have begun in Lawrence. That's right, hundreds of bikes now going to be using the 21st Bike Boulevard because we've made the right turn only lane, right turn only at 21st and Mass. That's what was missing. And some of you commissioners are going to be up for re-election this summer. And I think I'm going to challenge you. You guys all point to the success of the Bike Boulevard on your campaign. Point to the hundreds upon hundreds of bikes that will now be using 21st Street. Because if there aren't, some would say that means the Bike Boulevard is a complete failure. I'd agree. But you know what? I have faith in our brilliant city that there's just going to be a whole bunch of biking going on now. And I want you commissioners to embrace it. Embrace your decision. Embrace your decision to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars upon this project in a year of pandemic when the money's tight. You guys have the foresight to know that if you build this, the bikes will come. I'm just batshit bonkers for the Bike Boulevard now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Hyde, you want to speak? You can go ahead. Come on.
My leg's asleep. Hold on a second. Sorry, I lose my balance. Losing my balance. This flowers were for you, but Sherry and Porter said that I can't give them to you, to give them to my mom. So I'm gonna do that, and she'll love it. Anyway. My name is Eric Hyde, 1605 West 27th Street, Lawrence, Kansas, 785-766-1605. I just have to add, well, hell, you're still leaving homeless without shelter, unassisted in the cold, without cold weather supplies you can provide before they freeze, before they go to a shelter. Moving on, but I want to say thank you to Mayor Finkeldei for being the only commissioner to ever respond to one of my emails. He basically told me that my ideas to help the homeless in the cold weather can be more resolvent when applied to the existing homeless organizations in town. And this info led me to contact all on his list that he sent me. I learned that these organizations are doing more than I thought, and due to whatever restraints they have, these organizations need these things for homeless tent camps in the city and also accept them. This comes from them. They said this. Lawrence Community Shelter needs tents, tarps, poly sheeting. The Dare Center needs tents, tarps, poly sheeting. Bert Nash needs tents, tarps, poly sheeting. Catholic Charities business needs coats, socks, gloves. I also learned an idea from a homeless outreach case manager at Burt Nash that it would be a good idea for the city to somehow organize a cleanup day for the homeless camps with volunteers, the homeless, and city staff. We can't completely blame the homeless for a heavily littered campsite. Most homeless tent camps do not have ready access to trash services, so this cleanup day will alleviate some of the bilateral pressure between the city and the camps. I was raised by an expert, blah, 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 camper. A clean campsite is among the greatest rules to maintain, mainly for safety. The community will appreciate cleanliness. The city will not have to provide regular services, like I said before, and will save money by having a cleanup day. And the homeless will have less obstacles and their campsites will be retained more, as opposed to costing the city money when they have to bulldoze or clear out a campsite for excessive safety or litter violations. So the main points are LCS, I already said that stuff, I don't have much time. I will say that my initial impression from Parks and Rec, who I contacted about the cleanup stuff, was received with high regard from staff, but was stalled for whatever reason by the man in charge there. That will need to be addressed. I will also say that it's hard to stay warm in the cold weather without firewood, like I mentioned before. Please, 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 let's get staff working on this tomorrow so we can figure out the best way to get that wood to them and these tents, tarps, and poly sheets. I understand we don't want to encourage long-term camping at these homeless sites. One blah, 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 almost in one more sentence. The reality is there are some 200 to 250, as stated, for the Burt Nash employee people camping. We want them to survive the winter. Thank you.
Sherry Redeman, City Clerk, I believe that is all the public, general public comment, Mayor.
Mayor Finkeldei, thank you. We are ready for a regular agenda item number 1, which is to consider and conduct a public hearing on a catalyst request related to Standard Beverage. And I assume Britt is going to lead this discussion?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is City Economic Development Administrator Britt Crumcano. Tonight we have a catalyst project for consideration. The Standard Beverage Ownership Group is requesting participation in the program to support an expansion of their existing facility. Standard Beverage has been operating in Lawrence since 1989 as a distributor of wine, spirits, and beer. Their current facility supports 140 employees. With the state 2017 legislative change that allowed grocery stores and convenience stores and club stores to sell stronger beer, the company's customer base has grown, prompting the need for the expansion of their building in the Timber Ridge Industrial Park. The company is proposing about 118,000 square foot expansion to provide additional warehouse, garage, and dock space, as well as space for new employee facilities, meeting rooms, and wellness rooms. The applicant is requesting participation in the Catalyst program, and if approved, they will receive a 10-year 50% property tax abatement, potentially up to 70% if they build the building to LEED Silver equivalency. They'll get a sales tax exemption on construction materials, and they'll get a waiving of the city's application and IRB origination fees. Note, this project is not being built on city and county owned land, so there is no land component. So the next steps is, if you approve the resolution of intent, staff will work on behalf of the company and apply to the state so they can get their project exemption certificate. This is what they would use to get their sales tax exemption on their construction materials. Staff will also work with bond counsel and the applicant to draft a performance agreement that will outline their obligations and the development requirements for the project. The agreement would then come back to the City Commission at a future date. And then to issue the IRB bonds, there would be an IRB ordinance that again come before the City Commission at a future date. I know we have some representatives from Standard Beverage, and I will turn it over to them so that they can explain a little bit more about their project and the company. Before I do so though, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Finkeldine, any questions for Brett at this time? Seeing none. Matt Goff, are you taking the lead?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. I'm Matthew Goff with Barber Emerson Law Firm. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant. I'm pleased to be joined by several Standard Beverage Corporation officers, including Chief Operations Officer Ryan Thurlow, Chief Financial Officer Angie Wilhelm, and Project Manager Troy Smith. As Britt mentioned, and as reflected in the materials of your agenda packet, Standard Beverage has an immediate need to expand its warehouse and distribution facilities because full-strength beer is now sold in grocery, convenience, club store, and other similar channels. When we last discussed this project in December 2019, Standard Beverage was contemplating a 30,000 to 100,000 square foot project that would cost between $8 and $15 million. And with that proposed project in mind, the City Commission unanimously expanded the Catalyst program to apply to physical expansions in any IG zoned land in Lawrence. According to the eligibility requirements of the Catalyst program, expansions to an existing building in an IG district outside of our business parks must be at least 25,000 square feet and must be at least 1.6 million in cost. This project easily meets those benchmarks. We're proposing a 118,300 square foot building costing about $13.5 million. And in addition to the building expansion, Standard Beverage is also purchasing new state-of-the-art packing and handling equipment. The project's anticipated to add around 16 full-time equivalent jobs and also ensures that the company's 140 existing jobs stay here in Lawrence. These warehouse jobs pay approximately $20 per hour on average. Standard Beverage had options to do this project really anywhere in Kansas, but because of Catalyst, Standard Beverage is choosing to expand in Lawrence. This project benefits Lawrence. Even with a 70% 10-year tax abatement, the project nets a 1.85 cost benefit ratio to the city as determined by the city staff. This is better than the 1.25 cost benefit ratio that the city's economic development policy would view as favorable. The benefit to the county and the school district are even greater at 4.46 and 3.39 respectively. Pursuant to the Catalyst program, a 70% tax abatement is available if the improvements are constructed to LEED Silver equivalent standards as certified by a licensed architect, and Standard Beverage intends to meet that standard. Thank you for adopting the Catalyst program. It's made a huge difference to Standard Beverage. We started talking about this last December, and despite everything that changed in those 12 short months, if everything goes as planned, the new facility will be complete or almost complete by this time next year. So for those reasons, the applicant requests that you adopt the resolution of intent presented as part of your agenda packet. And for the reasons you've heard this evening, I'm pleased to stand for questions. And I'd note again that we have representatives from Standard Beverage who are also available for questions.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you, Mr. Goff. Questions for the applicant?
Vice Mayor Shipley, Mr. Goff, you indicated there were other places they could relocate to, or that they would have considered relocating to. What were those places?
Standard Beverage has other facilities. They have a facility in Lenexa. They have facilities in Wichita. There's also an abundance of industrial buildings in Olathe. So those were some of the possible other sites that they could have looked at. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Shipley, just follow up, do any of those places offer any kind of incentives, either comparable to this or at all?
This is Matt Goff. I'm certain each city has some sort of economic development program, but I'm not aware of any similar to the Catalyst program.
Mayor Finkelstein, other questions for the applicant or staff before we open it up to public comment? Seeing none at the moment, I'd go ahead and open this to public comment. If anyone from the, and make sure this is clear, we are opening the public hearing. We are opening the public hearing, making that statement. And so anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature on Zoom, or if you're present, let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. I believe Steve Kelly had signed up to speak to this item. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. And before I begin, I first wanted to say one thing, probably in contrast to Matt's comment. I don't think it's been 12 short months. For me, it's been 12 very long months. So first, I would like to beg to differ with Matt's description of the last 12 months. But Mayor Finkelstein, members of the commission, and again, this is Steve Kelly. I'm speaking on behalf of the Lawrence Chamber and Douglas County EDC this evening. This evening, you have before you a catalyst incentive request seeking favorable action from the commission for catalyst incentives benefits to facilitate the expansion of the standard beverage warehouse distribution operation located at 1280 Timber Ridge Road here in Lawrence. If the company proceeds with this expansion, they will add over 118,000 square feet of additional space, invest some $13.5 million in capital, and increase their current 140 employee count by an estimated 16 jobs. Standard Beverage, beyond the employment, the wages, and the taxes they generate, which benefit the community, have been part of the community for a number of years, and both they as an organization and their individual employees as well have been strong and steady supporters and contributors to a variety of local charitable and civic organizations. This sort of involvement is not accidental, but is rather a core tenet of the company and viewed as a responsibility that goes with being part of the community. In April of 2017, the Lawrence Catalyst Incentive Program was instituted by the Lawrence City Commission after considerable study and discussion. This program, which is intended to encourage development of Lawrence industrial properties, initially came to the commission as a proposal to encourage development activity in Lawrence Venture Park and East Hills Business Park, but was ultimately expanded to include development of industrial properties throughout the community if they met certain zoning and size requirements. The Catalyst program, with very minor modifications, was extended by the commission in 2019, and the time it has been in place has been shown to be an effective and attractive incentive for industrial development in the community. On behalf of LRICO Services LLC, on behalf of Standard Beverage, is asking for authority to issue up to $13.5 million in IRBs and for authorization for a 10-year tax abatement of either 50 or 70%, depending on whether the building is built to LEED Silver standards. The proposed expansion project brings additional investment and jobs with competitive wages to our community. Support of this project through Catalyst leverages significant investment by the company and encourages company growth to occur here, which helps our economy as we continue to try to emerge from the shadow of this pandemic. I believe this request, based on its merits, is worthy of favorable action and ask that you take action to approve. Thank you.
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Is there anyone else on Zoom who would like to provide comment on this item? And here in the commission room, do you want to provide comment on this item? Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Eric Hyde. What do attorneys do? They attorney to get you to stop what they want you to stop. And what they want you to stop is, in this situation, is to stop thinking that tax breaks and stuff is bad. I I do not agree with this. I don't care how regional this company is. If you only get 16 jobs from this, I see all that you're gonna get revenue and stuff. But Standard Beverage just wants more money. I mean, I've had friends work for them and they love that job. I mean, and I know they pay their employees well. I am all for that. But gosh darn it, like, I don't know, I could be completely wrong about this tax break thing, but it just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right at all. We should be giving tax breaks to other lower end businesses or something like this. Not for big companies. That's it. Thank you.
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Mayor, there is no other public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkeldei, thank you. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for questions, comments, or motions.
This is Commissioner Larson. And the Catalyst program was initiated a couple of years ago by the commission, and everything that I've read in the application indicates that they're following the policy that was passed. And so, and I do really appreciate the fact that they are wanting to move forward with a project here in Lawrence, that there continue to be, that they continue to have faith in Lawrence and want to stay here and grow. So I don't see any reason to not pass this. And I'm fully in support of it because they have met all the criteria.
This is Commissioner Ananda. I tend to agree with Commissioner Larson. This is a program that we put together that we have expanded, and when an organization or a business comes to us that has met these criteria, I think that's exactly what we designed it for. I think that sometimes there's a desire to have conversation around what this program looks like. I don't think that applies in this situation. I think that when those standards are met, then it makes sense to move forward with that project.
Mayor, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Shipley. I wanted to see if I understood what Commissioner Ananda said just then, right before you said it met the conditions, meaning if there's any feelings that there should be we should change this policy in some way, that's not the time for this discussion. You're fine with it the way it is. Is that kind of what you were saying?
This is Commissioner Ananda. I think that if there is to be conversation around the parameters that we've set within this program, it's not when an application comes before us. I did not say that I'm fine with it. I think that it's always open for being honed or discussed. And I also think that we have put a lot of thought into it. So I don't think on its face it is a bad program.
Mayor Finkeldei, I would jump in and just say that, you know, I agree that when we have a program, especially such as this, that is a great program that the previous commissions have put into place, that it's important that we need to look at applications as they come in. But if they meet our standards, that's the purpose of the Catalyst, to move it through the process. And so I think I certainly support this application. And we just recently had the economic development report that talked about the need to expand our base of jobs. And these 140 jobs plus 16 more jobs are, to me, certainly the type of jobs we need more of in Lawrence. And I think, this Catalyst program that focuses on industrial land and industrial type jobs is an important program to continue. And certainly I'm open to having conversations about it, but this this is a good project that is going to have long-range benefit for the city and something we need to encourage more of. Other comments, questions, motions?
Vice Mayor Shipley, I am concerned, and I understand that comment that Commissioner Ananda is making. I am concerned that this doesn't have as many jobs associated with it as other things that have gone through the Catalyst program. I'm fully aware that it's not required, but that's information that is frequently given to us as an asset to any of these projects. So the difference between 281 jobs and 16 jobs is quite a lot. And even though it's within the program parameters, the public that we represent may not understand that or may not see that as actually 16 jobs as quite the benefit for the cost that we're spending or that we're allowing to go untaxed. And again, I appreciate the comment that Commissioner Anand is making, but I've also seen lots of commissioners make protest votes because the parameters had not been addressed in a long time or had not been questioned or were not being questioned. So I just wanted to leave room for that. I completely understand. And the other thing I thought was interesting about this project that wasn't mentioned is it seemed like some of the expansion was also about providing cafeteria space, break space for employees, which of course now would be really helpful in COVID. And I certainly always appreciate anything that employers do to make employees more comfortable in their job. So nobody mentioned that, but that was certainly something I saw that was very nice to have part of their project.
This is Commissioner Bowley. I appreciate the discussion and would just observe that probably the appropriate time to have the discussion of the aspects of the Catalyst program is within the context of the economic development study that we're doing right now. I think that's something that we could, justifiably learn more about and consider further. Then I don't think, the application that we have in front of us is the time to have that discussion. I support the project.
Mayor Finkeldine, then do we have a further comments or motions?
Commissioner Larson, I would move to adopt resolution number 7350 and grant a 10-year 50% or 70% if constructed to lead silver equivalency property tax abatement for the expansion project.
Commissioner Ananda, second.
Mayor Finkeldine, we have a motion by Commissioner Lawson, a second by Commissioner Ananda. Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Ananda?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowley?
Aye.
Mayor Finkeldine, aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, and appreciate your support and investment in the community and your continued hard work. Thank you. Does anyone need to take a break before we move to the next agenda item? Okay, we've been going about 2 hours, so we'll take a 10-minute break and be back. Looks like by my watch at 7:53. Thank you. Mayor Finkel, aye. Porter, are we about ready to start back up?
We are ready, Mayor.
Mayor Finkel, aye. Thank you. I will take roll call. Vice Mayor Shipley,
Here.
Commissioner Nanda,
Here.
Commissioner Lawson,
Here.
Commissioner Bully,
Here.
Mayor Finkel, aye. I am here as well. We are ready to move to regular agenda item 2, which is to consider authorizing the city manager to use an alternative delivery method for the Bowerstock Dam. Melinda or Matt, I don't know who's going to take the lead here.
That'd be me, Mayor. I'm going to share my screen. Ah. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager with MSO. With tonight's presentation, staff wanted to provide you an update of the current projects underway at the Kansas River. These 2 projects included filling the scour holes beneath the Bowersock Dam and the stabilization of the South River Bank. In addition, the action before you, as the Mayor just read, is to authorize an alternative delivery method for additional repairs to the downstream face of the Bowersock Dam, and to authorize negotiation of a design-build contract for that dam rehabilitation. Included in that, we'll also have some next steps that will be that Bowersock Dam rehabilitation, the retaining wall adjacent to Abe and Jake's, and then future recreation facilities. So this slide just provides an overview of the project location. I think all of us on the in the commission and city staff are well aware of where this is at, but just for viewers of the public, just give an idea where this is at. Bowersock Dam, and then Abe and Jake's Landing with the retaining wall around the west and north side of Bowersock, or of Abe and Jake's. The slide shows you the scour hole repairs. So this was broken up into 3 different locations that we just completed: Cavern 1A, Cavern 1B, and Cavern 3, all filled voids that were within the dam itself. This is an isometric view showing that same view, just to provide a little more clarity for those who are not familiar with the area. And then this is a photograph showing the front face of the dam, which is in this location is part of the North Powerhouse or South Powerhouse of Bowersock Mills and Power Company. So Cavern 1A, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we had grout bags that were placed on 1A and 1B. This project only placed the grout bags. That was what was done with this project, even though you may see that this concrete in here in the middle was a little lighter color. That was not done with our project. Approximately 20 yards of concrete were placed in Cavern 1A, and approximately 70 cubic yards were placed in Cavern 1B. This work, please keep in mind, this work was done while it was underwater. This was done so the water below the dam provided some resistive force to the hydrostatic pressure upstream of the dam. In other words, if this was done with no water pushing on the downstream face of the dam, there is a potential for a breach in the dam. So something else to keep in mind is the grout bags that you see in this photo are only used for, their only purpose is to be used as a temporary form. So as soon as they pump the concrete behind these grout bags and that concrete cured, then these grout bags could come off. So they were just to be used as a form. Cavern 3 is the area north of what is affectionately referred to as the sun porch. That's that square section that's surrounded by sheet pile. This is a close-up. On this particular location, we placed approximately 9 yards of concrete behind this location. So for the next steps on the dam, so I just showed you what we completed with our project with the filling of the scour holes in the dam itself. So what we're bringing to you tonight is to take advantage of the conditions we have on site with the dewatering and the river levels at an all-time low. So what our new project or our upcoming project would entail would be a new downstream face in this green area, and then also a new downstream face in the blue and possibly the red area. And then in addition to that, we'd place a new downstream apron cap on all three of these locations. And then once again, this is just another photo of an isometric view to help you see its relationship. So you're probably wondering, well, what happened to Cavern 2? Well, Cavern 2 was actually this area between the sun porch and then that red area that you saw on the previous slide. This area we affectionately refer to as Cavern 2. It's not really a cavern, but you can see from the front face of this slide that there's lots of indentations and pockmarks and irregularities in the dam face itself. So the riverbank stabilization or this would take care of this with the next project. And then wanted to provide a little update on what's happening with the next piece of this. So hold on. So the riverbank stabilization project still needs to install some erosion control features. These are tentatively scheduled to take place the week of January 4th. These will include seeding and installation of turf matting and erosion control blanket. After the TSP contract closes out, which is who has the current riverbank stabilization project, we will have approximately $200,000 to use for riprap placement. That was not in that original contract. Additional riprap still needs to be placed along that access road to help armor it. A bid for the replacement of that riprap will be advertised once a determination is made concerning the retaining wall. So the retaining wall was, as you know, was bid a first time and came back with high bids. So we revised the plans and sent them back out for a second bid. Those plans are due, or that bid is due on December 22nd. So we'll read those a week from today. Keep in mind, a portion of the retaining wall will be submitted for FEMA reimbursement funding. However, that funding is not guaranteed. Although we are hopeful that a section of the retaining wall will be reimbursed, that funding, just wanted to point out, is not guaranteed. So if the wall is determined to be eligible by FEMA, they would finance up to 85% of that work. So having said that, we are hopeful that a section of that wall will be reimbursed. And then we currently have a special use permit application in process with Planning and Developmental Services, and we'll bring that back to you in March. So here's an overview of the retaining wall. This is an existing photo looking south at Abe and Jake's, and then we'll get a little close up here. My computer doesn't freak out. Sorry about that. Might make everybody physically ill. So here's a close-up of that same retaining wall. And then this is a slide of both. So I should point out we have two separate retaining walls, and we're going to replace it with one large continuous retaining wall. So the portion of the wall that we believe is FEMA eligible would be this part that I've got highlighted in yellow here. As you can tell from the spring rains, now after the 2020 or 2019 spring flooding event on the Kansas River, that wall failed. We believe that we are eligible for that. We will obviously submit that to FEMA and try and get that reimbursed. And then with this slide, I just wanted to show a basic overview of the access road that we have in place today. And then with the SUP process, what we'll do is we'll come back and we will add recreational amenities to that. So currently the access road is anywhere from 18 to 20 feet in width. When we come back with the recreation trail, and by the time we're done with rip wrapping, that'll be somewhere in the 12 to 14 foot wide neighborhood. And then portions of that trail will probably come up. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what that alignment looks like today. And then, so just to recap, tonight's action before you is to authorize the city manager to utilize an alternative delivery method for additional repairs to the downstream face of the Bowersock Dam, and then also to negotiate a design build contract with JF Brennan, who's the contractor, and then Bar Engineering, who's the design engineer for design and construction services for that design dam rehabilitation project. And then on January 5th, we will bring back the items to authorize the execute the design build contract, award the retaining walls construction or some variant of that, and then a 2021 CIP amendment. And then for future considerations, we'll bring back for approval the special use permit, and then we'll get into the details of the funding for that and discuss timing. So I know I went through that pretty quick, but if you have any questions, ready to answer those.
Commissioner Larson, I have a question for you, Matt. So the repairs that are being proposed, are they permanent repairs to the point to where we won't have to have any other type of work that needs to be done on the dam for many years to come? If so, how many years do you think estimated?
Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager. So the estimate would be probably 50-year return time on that. So yes, that's exactly what we're asking for. So that would take care of the degradation from the water falling over the front face of the dam, either directly on the apron or the scour effects on the downstream face of the dam.
Thank you. Another question is the repairs that have been done in the caverns 1A, 1B, and 3, I think it is. How much did those cost us to get those done, those 3?
Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager. So the total cost for the dam repair portion was just a little over $1 million with the change order that you had approved at the commission meeting back in November. And so we didn't spend that full amount. The overall cost for that is going to be just a little under $1 million.
Okay. That's for that, excuse me, Commissioner Larson, that includes the road with that $1 million?
Engineering Program Manager, Matt Bond. So they've built some of the road, the access road out in that riverbank stabilization for some of that for access to the dam as part of that project. So yes, that would probably include some of that for the dam, but then it'll also be included in the riverbank stabilization.
Melinda Harger, Assistant Director of MSO. I wanted to provide some clarification there. We did have one contract with TSP, but it was under 2 different project numbers. So the dam repair, the scour hole maintenance project, that one is the project that is coming in. The actual costs are coming in just under $1 million. And then the other piece of that TSP contract is the bank stabilization project. And the access road was just under $600,000. And then we had $50,000 to $60,000 for design of some rec features. So we did some preliminary design as well.
Mr. Larson, thank you for that clarification. So the proposed stabilization of that bank that we're looking at doing at this point in time, will that be enough to prevent a washout of that road as the river starts to get higher during the spring?
Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager. Yes, that's the intent, because in the previous contract, it was a temporary road is what they had put in the original contract. And with the additional armoring, that is the intent to have that withstand flooding events on the Kansas River. So yes, that is the intent of that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Larson again. So the slope that's adjacent to that road, the temporary road right now, that is on the south side of that road, it seems pretty steep. And what's going to be done to stabilize that to prevent it from being degraded during floods or high water times?
Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager. So that is one of the things that we're looking at right now. So as I mentioned before, the road is anywhere from 18 to 22 feet in width as it's currently constructed. We will narrow that back down to 12 or 14 feet to buy us some area to slope that back with riprap. The contractor's also having a geotech firm come out, I think it's next week or week after next, to put in some borings and get some additional information on that particular piece. I do estimate that we could probably handle it with riprap, but we're not going to leave it like that prior to spring rains. I can tell you that.
Okay, thanks for that information. Commissioner Larson, again, I did want to ask about the, another question about the caverns that were repaired, where you have the grout bags that are acting, it seems like it's acting as a collar. Is that correct?
Matt Bond, Engineering Program Manager. Yeah, they're more or less a temporary downstream or downstream form, if you will. So when they place the concrete inside those voids, they did it in 2-foot lifts. And so the bags act nothing more as that temporary form. So they're kind of a sacrificial surface, so to speak. So as soon as the concrete hardened behind them, that added mass and filled those voids. And so when we go back and we put a downstream wall on that, I anticipate that they'll take those grout bags out, and any of the anchoring bars or threaded rods that they had on that, they'll actually use those and help tie all that together.
Thank you very much. So Commissioner Larson again, so the grout bags were more of a temporary type measure just to act as a form. So the entire wall now under this new proposal, the entire face of that area is going to be covered with a wall. Is that correct?
Engineering Program Manager Matt Bond. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Mayor Finkel, I have other questions for Matt at the moment before we open it up for further comment, public comment. Seeing none, I go ahead and open the matter for public comment. If you're interested in speaking on the item, you can raise your hand via the Zoom feature, or if you're present, you can let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Mayor, it doesn't appear that no one has indicated they want to speak to this item on Zoom, and there is no public present here. Oh, I apologize. Spoke too soon. Sarah Hill Nelson, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
I just wanted to say that I'm here to answer any questions that anybody has of me, and we really appreciate all the work that the city has done to try and take advantage of the work that's been done to date, and we're anxious, like all of us, to get this wrapped up so we don't have to worry about it for quite some time, and we'll be able to protect city water supply and all the other associated benefits that come from the dam. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to respond. Thank you.
Mayor Finkel, Sarah, just for the, I know I've heard a little bit about this, but maybe for the public, can you talk just a second about the work you're doing to the powerhouse and associated that's not the city work?
Sure, absolutely. So we have known for quite some time that the city was going to need to repair the south end of the Bowersock Dam. And so over 50% of the city's water supply comes on a daily basis from the pool of water that's upstream of the dam, which is why the city maintains the dam. So we knew this repair was going to need to happen. So we have been waiting to do our south powerhouse until the city was going to do their project. So the city got started this fall, and we partnered with the city and the other contractors to dry up our south powerhouse. I'm sure the community members have seen the cofferdam that was built around the south powerhouse. And we have done work on our exterior foundation where the powerhouse sits on the shale. We needed to get in and do some work there, and general concrete repair on the exterior of the powerhouse, and also just going through the interior of the powerhouse. Most of that is usually underwater, so we can't really ever see what the situation is. So this is an important opportunity for us, and it worked well to tie all these projects together, because Bowersock we have to drop our head gates, which I'm sure people in the community have seen, and so we can use that to dry out our south powerhouse, but it also dries up the rest of the area so the work can be done to repair the dam and the downstream retaining wall.
Mayor Finkel, thank you for that. And I ask this question not because I doubt Matt Bond's answer to this, but what do you this work that we're proposing, what do you think the length of time it'll be to that the dam will be hopefully in good shape for after we do this work? Is the 50 years what you're expecting as well?
Yeah, I think if you do a downstream wall, like what I have seen proposed, that they're proposing a poured in place structure, I think the city can expect that it's going to last a really long time. I do have a really high regard for FAR. That's who the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. It's one of the, it's a really good engineering firm that they work with dams all over the United States, but they're also not like, they're just good. They're agile, but not super high dollar. Like, so I feel really good about the engineering team. And then JF Brennan is they do amphibious construction all over the United States. And in fact, one of the dive teams that we've worked with historically got bought up by JF Brennan. JF can do work underwater and outside, you know, in the dry, and they've recommended that the rest of this work be done in a dry situation. So I do feel that we're in really good hands with that team. And I think the question is if really God and nature will play kindly with us, that we can continue to keep these low flows and get this work done. And I hope also we'll be able to get that downstream retaining wall done, because it is a big effort to dry out this area. And it's a rare opportunity, honestly. And so I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to finish all the associated work that needs to be done in the region.
Mayor Fingler, thanks, Sarah. Other questions for staff or applicant? And Sherry, okay, go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner Larson.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Larson, Matt or Melinda, I don't know who wants to answer this. Could you talk a little bit about the recreational aspect of how this project will set us up so we can take advantage of the recreational opportunities and funding that may be available through various federal as well as state organizations if we do that?
Engineering Program Manager Matt Bond. So one of the things that we have currently with that SUP is we've got an engineering firm looking at that recreation feature. And so that would tie into the retaining wall as kind of the anchor of the west edge of the project, and then move back to the east. Along that would be different fishing promenades and a boat ramp, and then some a gathering area down there below the retaining wall, and as well as proposed would be a staircase back up to the promenade itself from that general area. This ties in well. We've talked to Kansas Wildlife Parks and Tourism. They have a letter of commitment for $245,000 for this project. This marries up well with their budgets that they have. That'll come due sometime in the mid to late spring. So when all of their budgets match up, then we can talk about, there's another funding opportunity from, I believe it's the Coast Guard, to put sound equipment along the front face of the dam to help keep the Asian carp, which is an invasive species, from traveling farther upstream. There's just lots of grant opportunities that would help fund the recreational piece of this.
Mr. Larson, thank you, Matt.
Mayor Finkel, Sherry, I'm not sure I was clear. Was that all the public comment we had?
Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. That is all the public comment, but I believe Sarah wanted to provide more comment at your discretion.
Okay. Thank
Sarah
you.
Hill Nelson. So sorry, I thought you were nodding. Sarah Hill Nelson with Bowersock. I did want to say, I do think that the retaining wall does need to be replaced in any case. And I think that the city is being forward thinking in their attempts to replace that retaining wall in a way that facilitates human access to the river, because a lot of people in Lawrence, I think, don't have the opportunity to get to the river as easily as we might hope. I think it has the potential to be a really good asset for the city. And so you could do a retaining wall in a way that prevented access to the river, or you could do a retaining wall in a way that facilitated human access and recreation, and that brings in all those grant dollars. So I think that I just want to applaud the city for pursuing those dollars. I know a lot of other people down here have worked really hard to make that happen, and I'm hopeful that that'll turn into an asset for the community. Thank you.
Mayor Finkelstein, thank you. Other questions, comments, motions?
Commissioner Larson, I'm in support of this item on the agenda. I think that the idea that we can take care of the problems on the face of that dam, and with the idea that we've got some long-term life to it, I really appreciate that. And I also like the fact that we went ahead and are building that retaining wall on the south or north side of Abe and Jake's in order to facilitate additional recreational facilities down the road, take advantage of all the monies that are available for that. I think that all in all, this project seems to be coming together. And that's very advantageous to the community. And I really appreciate all the work that's been done on this very much. So I'll be in support of it.
Mayor Finkelstein, I would certainly add to that and agree. I appreciate the work that's being done. And, you know, as you look at the agenda item for an alternative delivery method, you know, you want to use that sparingly, but, you know, if there's ever a project that needs an alternative method, it's the one dam that we have. You know, this is a scenario in which it's worth taking advantage of the low water, the cofferdam that's in place, and certainly trying to get this work done quickly is important. And I also certainly support where we're headed with the retaining wall and the recreational components. As the downtown master plan comes back, I think we'll see even more of a push in that plan to have some of these amenities. So I think it fits right into that, and appreciate all the work that staff has done, Sarah's done, Mike Logan has done from Abe and Jake's. And I know it's been a long process, but it's good to be heading towards the end here.
Commissioner Larson, I'll go ahead and make the motion then, if nobody else has anything else to say. Authorize the city manager to utilize an alternative delivery method for additional repairs to the downstream face of the Bowersock Dam, finding it is in the public interest pursuant to chapter ordinance number 45, and authorize staff to negotiate a design build contract with JF Brennan Company Incorporated and Bar Engineering Company for design and construction services for the Bowersock Dam rehabilitation.
Vice Mayor Shipley, I second.
Mayor Finkelstein, we have a motion by Commissioner Lawson, a second by Vice Mayor Shipley. Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Ananda?
Aye.
Commissioner Boley?
Aye.
Mayor Finkelstein, aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you all for your work, and we'll look forward to the hopefully consent agenda items on January 5th. Okay, that completes our regular agenda. We'll move to commission items. Does any commissioner have a future agenda item to add? How about any future work session item? Any other item before we get to the brief discussion on boards and committee assignments? Seeing none on that, we did add the commissioner board and agenda, commissioner board and committee assignments. And I know the one change is, as the mayor always serves on the library board, so I'll be on that. Otherwise, I don't have any, I appreciate the committees I'm on. I don't have any other changes. I just wanted to be sure we had a chance to talk about it one more time when we all knew it was coming. So if anyone else has any thoughts or comments on that.
This is Commissioner Ananda. I do want to point out that leaves me on one Board of Commissioners. I'm on the CJCC, and just in terms of equity, if folks feel like they are in more than they would like to be in, or just want to change things up. Obviously, I would love to keep the CJCC. It's something about which I'm very passionate and enjoy that work. However, if others would like to give up a board, I would be willing to consider taking that on as well. Like, I'm not seeking it necessarily.
This is Commissioner Bowley. Would you like to be on the Community Health Plan Steering Committee?
I would be happy to consider that. Can you tell me when they meet?
They meet quarterly. We just met a few days ago.
Okay, Commissioner Bully, I would be happy to do that.
I'd be happy to give up that assignment and provide it to Commissioner Ananda.
Commissioner Ananda, thank you, Commissioner Bully.
Commissioner Larson, I'm satisfied with the boards that I'm on. Appreciate the work that they're doing and would like to continue in those roles. So.
Mayor Finkeldine. Okay. Seeing anything else? No other comments? Sherry, I assume you have those and can update those for us?
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Yes, Mayor.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you, Sherry. And now we'll turn it over to Craig Owens for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager Craig Owens. The first item tonight under my report, it was the recognition that I'm pleased to be able to report on of Danielle Bushketter, who was recognized by the Kansas City County Management Association about a week ago at our virtual conference as the Early Career Excellence Award recipient. And you all get a chance to work with her like we do and understand that's a very appropriate award for her, but we were very, very excited for her and proud to have her part of our team. The next item is a regular utility billing report. The one after that, it was just an update on the utility assistance donation program, which was, we've talked about as being so important this time of year and with the pandemic and the continued extra help that some community members need with their utility bills. And then the rest is the future work session. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those.
This is Commissioner Ananda. I didn't see Danielle on our meeting tonight. I hope she is taking a well-deserved off. But I do want to pass along my congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment, and I've appreciated everything that she's brought to the commission and just the way she interacts with us. So thanks for bringing that to our attention, and please pass along. I'm certain not just mine, but the whole commission's congratulations on that.
Mayor Finkeldine, I certainly would echo that as well. Any other questions for Craig? I guess I'll need to open that up for public comment. If anyone, looks like everyone on the Zoom meeting is a staff member besides us, but if you want to raise your hand to question Craig Owens, this is your chance. Or if there's any member of the public who would like to make a comment, please let Sherry know.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk, and there is no public comment on this item.
Mayor Finkeldine, thank you. I thought for sure Porter was going to ask something, but okay, we'll let that pass. Okay, calendar items. Any calendar items?
This is Commissioner Bowley. Do we have an event on the 21st? Is that on the calendar?
Mayor Finkeldine, I'm looking at my calendar. What?
A police facility?
Oh, I see that. Oh, the flag ceremony. I did get an email on that today. The flag ceremony for the new facility is at 11 o'clock on the 21st.
I think we should put that on the calendar.
Excellent point. Thank you, Mayor Finkeldine. Thank you, Commissioner Boyd. Any other calendar items? Okay. Seeing none, we might look to adjourn the final commission meeting of 2020 and look forward to starting anew in 2021. And you have to hope it'll be a better year than 2020. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Ramalanda, I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Larson, second.
Mayor Finkeldine, there's a motion by Commissioner Nanda, a second by Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Nanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shipley?
Aye.
Commissioner Boley?
Aye, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season.
Mayor Finkeldine, I vote aye as well, and happy holidays to everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you in 2021. And Kurt, get better soon.